Hey everybody, welcome back. In my learning Malagasy, the structure of verbs seems to be the most complicated topic, but in comparison to other languages, it isn't so bad. There are three tenses, past, present, and future, that I covered in a previous video, linked below, and there's just a quick review we need to go over of our Creole verbs right here, so this will be important later. Note the prefixes that are added to form the future and the past. Malagasy also has three voices: active, passive, and instrumental. Forgetting for the moment the third voice, the passive voice is particularly important in Malagasy. Speakers use it frequently, more so than we use it in English, so we can't ignore it. And without the passive construction considered in our conlang, it would be skipping a key element, not only in the grammar of the language, but also in the culture, as very often passive voice can be used to express politeness or social hierarchy and other things. Just a reminder on the passive, here's a super condensed summary of the English passive. We use it to make the object of an active sentence the topic or subject of the sentence. So, she writes books is the active sentence, while books are written by her is the passive. The structural difference between the active and passive voices is by the location of the agent or subject and the inclusion of the auxiliary verb be and a past participle. Be has been added, and the verb write has been changed to the participle written, and the agent, her, is supplemental and optional. Though it's not always true and depends on the emphasis, the focus of this sentence is on the books, not that it is she who writes them. This is the same structure as in French, so elle écrit des livres. The object is fronted, the verb is changed to the participle, and we add be, so les livres sont écrits. Now, prepare yourself for a very rudimentary explanation of Malagasy passive. To avoid embarrassing myself, my example is just the bones of the structure. I am by no means fluent or even competent in this language. Malagasy is a verb-object-subject language. While subject-object-verb in English and French, we need to move the subject, which is the agent, to the end of the sentence. But in Malagasy, the subject was never at the front of the sentence, but it can be omitted just like we can in our languages. Taking the same sentence, but in verb-object-subject order, write books she, a prefix is added marking the passive, and then move books to the end, because it is now the new subject, agent. This is beyond simplified. And to keep our verbs consistent in the conlang, I want to follow the similar fashion that we have been doing, especially because they're also the same in Malagasy. The passive should be dictated by a new prefix, perhaps from a common French passive phrase. So the French phrase that I hope many will recognize from maybe French 102 is c'est fait. In hearing passive constructions and trying to apply them without any proper instruction, it's reasonable to assume that Malagasy speakers could use the idea of to be complete or made or finished as a passive marker. The phrase seems like a great source for the passive since, other than habitual statements, passive often expresses completion. Reanalyzed, the prefix will be c'est fait, which can be added to the front of our Pidgin or Creole verbs. Just a couple notes before we see how it works. For the agent, the French preposition par will stand as by, simplified to pas, and all pronouns will keep their subject form except for I, which goes from J to moi, meaning me, from the French moi, and nous and vous are shortened when they are objects. So, I write books is j'écris livres, and books are written by me is livre c'est fait écrire par moi. We eat rice is nous mangerons, and rice is eaten by us is riz c'est fait manger par nous. And because grammar compounds, we can't forget the other tenses. But just like Malagasy, we can simply keep adding prefixes. So, books will be written by me is livre c'est fait le manger par moi, and rice was eaten by us is riz c'est fait the manger par nous. I think this element of our Creole is structurally more complex than some others I've worked on, mostly because where it comes from may not be able to be seen just from the surface. But it's a great example of a grammatical point that might overwhelm conlangers or language learners who are new to more advanced grammatical topics. So my question for everyone here is, do you have any ideas of other ways to form the passive? What methods have you used in your conlangs? And Other topics would be I'd like to know about, like what more difficult structures were you able to overcome despite being concerned about how difficult it was at the time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I'm excited to see you next time. Ciao.